This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome, entrepreneurs and trailblazers. Get ready to lock into your new favorite podcast, the Business Locksmith Podcast, with me, Joseph Hester. We're unlocking the code to success. Join in as we pick the brains of business owners. Stay on code with insights from experts and officials. And crack open the latest in business and life through captivating interviews and discussions. Welcome, everyone, to the Business Locksmith Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Hester, and today I have a great guest with us today. This is Kennisha Griffin. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
And so, Kennisha, I think we met, was it just around town or during some chamber events or anything like that? How did we first meet?
I think it was like Startup Waco.
Startup Waco?
Yeah.
I mean, great place to start conversations and networking.
Yes.
So you are the owner of Create and Blossom.
Yes.
What is that? Can you tell us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Create and Blossom is a book writing and book production company. And we also do book publishing assistance too. So essentially, authors will say, hey, I'm working on a book project. I need someone to either help me finish this project, to write it, or I need help making it. And so myself and my amazing team, because I can't do this by myself, we work together to get their ideas on paper and then to actually produce a book that they love. So in a nutshell, that's what we get to do at Create and Blossom. And then we do a little bit of marketing help, a little bit of book publicity too. And it's important for me to help authors have a really good jump start into their careers. And so, yeah, that's the fun I get to do every day.
Awesome. And so before you started this, let's go back to your story, right? And so where were you born and raised? And, tell us a little bit about your childhood and let's paint a little picture of like how that was.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not from Waco. I am originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. So
awesome. Our neighbors
I'm a NOLA girl.
Our neighbors to the east there.
Yes. I'm a NOLA girl of all things Creole food and just grew up in that super rich culture. I love my city. I miss it. My family, they're still back home. But born and raised there, I was always a little girl who loved creative writing and using my imagination and telling stories and just really being present, where I was and exploring and everything. So I immediately took in a love to write, to write in my journal, to write in my diary, to share my thoughts, even if it was just with myself or, with others, let others read poems and things that I would write. I will never forget this because I actually wrote about this in a book that I wrote called Put Your Pen to Paper. Part of my story is that I would write tiny little stories and give them as gifts to my mom for her birthday and for Mother's Day and things like that. Just maybe even randomly. I was a little girl who had the construction paper and the yarn and the, hole puncher and would be super creative to make my own books and draw my illustrations. And what I learned is that made my mom really happy. So she loved my work. And so I'm a little girl that was really happy about seeing her mom excited about something I made for her. And that really, I don't know if she knew this or not, but it really inspired me to just keep doing that. And somehow that just really turned into me wanting to write more. And then many, many years later, turned into me wanting to continue to do the same thing, help people write books. I continue to write my own books and then continue to help other people do the same thing that make people happy. So
you had a lot of support with your interest in writing and your creativity of creating your own little books. Mm-hmm. Was there anything that inspired that thought process? Is there something that you had seen, TV shows or any other books, or was it just simply reading books and wanting to make your own?
Yeah, that's a good question, Joe. I think that I just had an obsession with stories. And so definitely in books too. I love to go to the library. There were summers that I would spend and we would go to the library as kids. And then also I loved it when we were in school, anytime it was library day, that was one of my most favorite days, I loved to go to the library and just look at all the books and look at the illustrations and how they were made. And I think I learned at an early age that it was not just the stories that I loved that I was drawn to, but also the whole packaging was what I loved. So it was the art and it was how did they put this together and how did they do this? So I always just kind of had an obsession with how books were made and how they were formed. But I also just really loved stories all together. So in movies, in plays, I was just fascinated with anytime I'd sit down and a person wanted to tell me a story, Joe, I'm like sucked in and hooked. Like, tell me more, about your story, because I just want to see it in my head. I want to experience it. And so I just somehow had a love for that very early in my life. And it just carried, and continued with me as I got older.
Did you have any siblings growing up?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a younger sister who's 4 years younger than me. I also have a younger brother who is, I think Corey is about, oh gosh, if he sees this and I get his age wrong, he's going to kill me. I think he's about 23 years old right now, 23, 24. And then I had an older brother who passed away when he was 33 years old.
No, sorry to hear that.
He was a Marine. So I loved him very deeply, and I miss him deeply. It's been 10 years this year since he passed. But
really? Well, my condolences.
Thank you.
Did they have similar interest in storytelling, or like, were you on your own on that one?
I was always the oddball of the family.
Okay.
I was the different one. I was the black sheep. I was the one, everybody else went one way and I was going the other way. I was that child. Yes, I was very unstoppable as a little girl. I would follow my own imagination. I didn't follow crowds or worry about what anybody else was doing. I was just like, do, la, la, la. Oh, what's over there? I just go in a whole nother direction to explore. And my family knew that about me. Of course, I was teased. My older brother teased me all the time because I was so different than everyone. Him and my sister would team up together, and she sees this. She's also going to laugh at me. They would team up on me and be like, there she goes. She's the strange one. She's the odd one, the only one. There's this funny story, Joe. I have to tell you this. We went to see a movie, an Oscar-winning film. I want to name the film. I don't want to get in trouble for anything weird, but we went to see this really great movie with Tom Hanks. And let me tell you, I love this movie so much. I went and took my brother and his wife at the time. I think they were dating, and some friends, all in New Orleans. We went to the movie. They let me pick it. So I picked the movie. I chose this one particular movie. We all went to the movie to see it. Everybody walked out of the movie like, I can't believe Kennisha took us to see this movie. Like, what is it? Like, we all fell asleep. We were all so bored, And I walked out of that thing like, that was amazing.
Okay, well, I need to know, what movie is it?
It was Castaway.
That was a great movie.
I loved it, right? It was so brilliant. I thought Tom Hanks was just phenomenal. But my siblings and friends were like, we're never letting Kennisha pick a movie ever again.
I mean, it's like, because I remember that movie, like, clearly.
Yeah.
Just a great story about, what do you do when you're just left to your own...
What do you do? I mean,
creativity and desire to survive.
It had to take brilliant acting to be able to pull that off, to talk to volleyball, Wilson.
Wilson,
come on.
Who didn't cry when old Wilson's floating away? Yeah.
Everybody did. I mean, so I think in some instances like that, I learned that I just have a love for storytelling, maybe a little bit different than your average person, probably.
Okay.
When I watch movies, I am a real movie critic, but I'm paying attention to all the dynamics, every single part that makes up that film, the music, the writing, the acting, the setting, the state, everything. I pay close attention to all of those things, and then I formulate an opinion about it afterwards.
So let me know what you think, because I have a thought.
Okay.
Movies as of now, I feel have just been going downhill in quality. Like I don't know when exactly like the cutoff was, maybe like 2010.
Yeah.
I feel like 2010 was kind of like that last, like, is that when, man, there's so many good movies. But like, Avatar?
Yes.
Was that 2010-ish, or was that even before that?
I don't know.
But I was like,
but I know what you mean.
That energy, that right about there was like the last good hurrah of like good movies. If you want like action movies, we can go with Expendables and all that. That was like a little bit later on, but lately it's like some of these movies I'm like, I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I love movies. I love watching, but some of they're a little bit painful nowadays, and they're not hitting as hard as they used to.
I fully agree with you. It has definitely been a little bit interesting for those of us who love really good films, and especially who pay attention to all of those parts that make up the movie. Yeah, I Don't know what happened. I don't know if I think some movies probably were a little bit ahead of themselves or ahead of the game than some other films. I think we might have had a taste of some excitement. And then in some movies, I think are so good that it's hard to beat again, the next one. I'll say, for example, Avatar, just like you just said. Avatar, when it first came out, I think so many of us were blown away.
Right.
I love to listen to the soundtrack of Avatar. I mean, I just love the music.
Right.
I thought was so good.
Back when movies had the correlating soundtrack with it.
Exactly.
Like that was like a thing.
Mm-hmm. It was.
And so I feel like that's gone away.
Like what happened to that? Exactly. Is really, I have not seen that in a long time, really, since a good film like Avatar. I'm trying to think of some other ones that came out recently. There were a couple of good ones that I did see. I enjoyed, what was it? Bad Boys 4. I actually thought they did good. Have you seen any of them? Yes.
I haven't got to see it yet.
Oh, goodness. I actually thought that was really, really good. The writing, the acting, everything about that, even the music, everything worked well on that film. I saw the new Quiet Place because I also like thrillers. And
so is that more of a thriller-based story?
Yeah, that's more science fiction. Some more your sci-fi about these monsters. And if you're not into sci-fi, then you may not have interest in it. But I've seen the other two, and they were really good too.
I think I saw the first one.
Oh man,
yeah,
you have to see part 2. It's really good. Yeah, but with the last one, you don't really have to. Like, you can just see it in the theaters and then go back and watch part 2 because it doesn't mess up the storyline. It just really just goes back and takes it all the way back to the beginning. But yes, it's hard to find. I'm also a huge Marvel fan, so
I mean, the comics book, yes, but for the movies, I don't think I've ever been impressed with anything.
Really?
Yeah, like I love the ideas of all the superheroes, but the actual like delivery through the movies, I'm kind of like,
there's
and it's like maybe I don't think of it as just the cartoon, like the not cartoon, but the actual comic books. But it's like I don't know, like it's like, are they trying to make it comic book? Or are they trying to make it as if it was real?
Yeah.
So it's like there's that little bit of a catch.
Try to keep some of the elements of the story of the actual original text, and then translating that a little bit differently on film. I feel the same way about like The Walking Dead, because again, I like sci-fi, and I like The Walking Dead. Loved the series. The last was just so good. I don't want to give anything away if you haven't seen it, but I enjoyed all of that with following along from the very beginning. I didn't even know it was based on a comic because, to tell you the truth, I didn't grow up reading a lot of comics. I knew of some of the superhero characters, probably because of cartoons and stuff like that, but I didn't read the comics. Those I know that did definitely have a strong opinion about how it was translated on film. Right. And that's a hard thing. And that's actually a question people ask about books, because of course many movies we see on TV are based on books. So how do you go through that process to go from a book that's written to a script to translating that into a script that could be then translated by actors and actresses and sets and stuff, putting on TV. I'd imagine it's a very different process. I'm not familiar with it. But it's still nice to be able to see some of the elements in the book on film. There are some movies I've seen that was based on a true story or that came from a book that I thought that they did a great job communicating it. So it's hard to do, but it's fun to see.
Right. It's part of the challenge, which makes it whether it's successful or not, or if everyone's a fan or not. But I mean, like I said, I love movies and TV shows. Yeah. I kind of cover the board pretty good, but I just enjoy watching. Yeah.
There you go.
So growing up in Louisiana, a lot of good movie theaters out there that you're able to go watch movies. Cause like that was like, I feel again, that's another thing that's kind of dying off is the theater experience.
I know.
And it's like I miss it, but then sometimes I'm like, but it's just a lot easier to watch it from home.
It is so much easier. I think I really enjoyed that time period, after COVID happened and people were just kind of, I hate to say I enjoyed us being stuck at home, but I think I enjoyed the availability of being able to just get the new movies that were like just now that would have been in a theater that's available to just watch at the comfort of your home. Now we're back to waiting again for movies that are in the theater, to waiting to see how long is it going to take before it's, available digitally for us, So I enjoyed it being readily available during that season. But yeah, we did, of course. We had theaters, and I was able to go and to the movies with friends, and just kind of enjoy that, have that experience too.
I think that was the fun
I
thing, is
still
having a
like
group to go with to the movie
Yes.
theaters. Like,
Yeah,
because, I think it was a different era
yeah,
where
yeah.
we didn't have everything available at home.
Right.
So if you
Yeah.
like back then, what was by the time it was released in theaters,
Yeah.
by the time it was released on DVD,
Mhm.
that'd be months,
Yes. We were
almost 6
waiting.
months,
I feel
maybe.
like 6 months. Yeah. I was
And
gonna say
so just imagine 6 months of everyone talking about this movie,
that.
but you're
Yeah.
waiting for it to come out on DVD or
Right.
to Blockbuster.
Mhm.
It was a different window of time.
Yeah.
Like now it's like, it's okay if you miss it, because you can literally, as long as you have the time,
Yeah.
you can watch it
Yeah.
and be caught up. It's not as a challenge to be caught up. But back then, if you missed it in theaters and
Yeah.
then you had to wait to get your copy
Yes.
too, it's like,
oh gosh,
it could just be almost a year.
It'd be a while,
Right.
especially if it's a really good movie that you really are anticipating watching, and then you've got to wait, and it's like, oh, come on, how many more months? I remember times counting down the months until something's available to go to Blockbuster to get the video, or stand in line and or go to Blockbuster, and then all you see are just the covers of those
Right.
DVDs, and nothing's in there, and you're like, come on, or just you see that person getting ready to go over there and get
Beep,
the
beep.
last one. You're like, come on, no,
Yep.
I was here to get it. You got to get there early. Our kids don't know nothing about that
Nah.
these days, but it's like
This-
waiting for a movie to release and then hoping that it's available to rent, at Blockbuster. What a time, right?
It's good times, though.
Totally different. Such good times. I miss it. Yeah. I
That-
miss that. I miss that.
It's just like, so growing up, Louisiana,
Yeah.
what's the tempo like? What's the culture like? What's available for like activities and
Okay.
enjoyment? What's it
Back
like out there?
home? Oh man, New Orleans is like a party city, to
Okay.
tell you the truth, But I think we're a good blend of a lot of things. So yeah, people love to go to New Orleans for like the for Mardi Gras. Of course, that's one of the biggest. Our carnival season is really big, and it's not just a day that we celebrate out there, but it's a month more than likely. It's kind of close to that. So much so that school is out, and kids are out, for a good while to celebrate that season. But people know us for Mardi Gras. People know us for the Jazz Fest. Is also a big festival, Essence Festival, which is always July 4th weekend. So that was a big festival that just left. Yeah, we always have like major concerts. I mean, really, New Orleans is a big place for lots of entertainment there. But there is also really good, like we have a good history museum. Like I think it's a World War II museum that they opened up a couple of years or several years ago. And I remember probably about 6 years ago, I went back to New Orleans for a work trip and went to see it. And it's amazing. It's this huge museum. We also have the French Quarter, of course, and there's lots that you can find in there. Some of the best food in the world is going to be in the French Quarter.
Now, when you say the best food, what food are we talking about?
Yes.
What's made out there? What is available?
Me and you are talking about New Orleans food. You're talking about our Creole cuisine, our any kind of seafood dishes. If you like seafood, we have like some of the best seafood dishes out there. One of my most favorite restaurants is called Antoine's Restaurant in New Orleans, located in the French Quarter. Very high class restaurant, but so good. I mean, I could just taste their shrimp etouffee right now. It is so good, and highly recommend it. But there are lots of different other restaurants, may not be as big of a name as Antoine's, that
Okay.
are also available out there that I would highly recommend. So tourists like to come to New Orleans for our food. Usually when I say I'm from New Orleans, and one of the first things people say is food. I love the food from back home. Some of the best chefs you're going to find come from out of New Orleans. Also lots of French cuisine. So New Orleans is
Right.
a melting pot of like your French and Native and African and we have in Spanish. I think we have lots of different cultures that ended up in the city of New Orleans, and so we have a blend of lots of their cultures in that's demonstrated in the food.
Right.
So you'll find just some of everything.
Yeah, I think the heavy French culture of food, that came down when I think they came from Canada, the Quebec area, and then moved down to New Orleans. Bringing that knowledge and then getting access to all that fresh seafood where you can have a lot of fun with it, a lot of seasoning and all that, and kind of you get to run it however you want.
Yeah.
Because that food is so like you can create it however you want. And usually it's hard to make it bad.
Yeah.
It's like only plain is bad, kind of, as long as it's not plain, you're having a good time.
Flavor is important to us, back home. Definitely need to have the right flavors and experience with those right spices and herbs. I'll tell you something really cool. I actually learned several years ago that I had an uncle, a great uncle, who also was an author. I didn't know that. I found his cookbook.
Oh,
yeah. And this is on my dad's side of the family. And he was Creole. So I think it was my grandmother's brother. And his name, we called him Uncle Buster. I remember being a little girl going to my grandfather's house, and I could just imagine us sitting in my grandfather and my grandparents' kitchen. They had a short little round table, similar to this, maybe just a little bit bigger than this. And we would sit at the table. Uncle Buster would be sitting right there, and he'll, ask how we're doing and everything. I'm sitting there probably eating a bowl of cereal or something like that. And he always brought a dish over, and I just remember him always being so kind. Again, I was a little girl, probably about 7 or so years old before my grandmother passed away. But Uncle Buster had a restaurant in the French Quarter in New Orleans, and I didn't know that. In fact, my dad tells the story that he used to work in his kitchen back there. And so he has, lots of stories and experiences with him to share. But he had has a cookbook, a recipe book of all of his Creole restaurants. Yeah. That he cooked in his kitchen. And I found it, the last copy. I think it was the last copy. I found it online, and I have copy of that book, and I'm so excited.
So
it's
you
just
got
a
it?
treasured, yes.
There you go.
And so when I went back to try to order more, I didn't see it available anymore. But I thought, yes, I'm so glad I have, the last copy. Is such a special thing to have for the family. And just so cool to know that there was another author in the family. I didn't know that. And so that was a sweet surprise. And definitely to have his recipes in a place.
Have you used it yet?
No.
We got to do it.
No. I've been a little bit nervous to mess anything up. I'm like, I'm not a chef, so no, I'm not. I could do something. I could bring a little bit of New Orleans. We usually bring a little bit of New Orleans, of course, to the house, and my kids love when I cook. They always say that, "Mommy, we love it when you make your seafood pasta and stuff," and it's good. I will say it's good, but but I don't do much more than that. So,
well, it'd be fun if you let me read a page or two and see if I can find a dish. I think I could
I know.
try to redo myself.
Yeah, you know what? I love it because to me that was just. First of all, it's special because it's his own recipes, things that he experimented with that other people fell in love with, things that he served at his restaurant. And again, I sit and listen to my dad tell stories about working, in Uncle Buster's kitchen back when red beans and rice was like 25 cents for a plate, a little bit different now with prices with this economy. But, back then you go there with a quarter, you get a plate of red beans and rice with smoked sausage in there. And it's like super good, and that's a staple in New Orleans. Every Monday in New Orleans is red beans and rice day.
Okay. So it's like they have it set for the week, or at least for the release of the new batch that they'll have.
Every Monday, red beans and rice, guaranteed. When you go to New Orleans, most houses are probably cooking that for dinner. That's been a tradition for years.
That's cool.
Back home.
To have a food staple like that.
One day. I don't know about any other day. Other days, just kind of random, whatever. But Mondays, especially in school, Mondays, red beans and rice day.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. So how long were you in New Orleans before you left? And was Waco this is your first stop, or did you travel before? Or?
So I traveled before. So after high school, I worked in downtown New Orleans for a ship management company, which was really cool. I got a chance to learn about a lot of different other cultures. I was the only, I was maybe one of few Americans who actually worked for this particular company. It was an international ship management company, which means that they managed those big ships that carried all sorts of different like iron ore and all this stuff, from other countries. Their main offices were like in Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia, in India, Dubai, and places like that.
Okay.
So anyway, a lot of the team members there, a lot of the leadership were from Norway and Dubai and places like that. So it's really cool to be in that kind of environment around different cultures. And I really learned a lot about them there. But I worked there for a good while. And then I just randomly decided I wanted to leave and I wanted to go to Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. So a couple states over, going all the way to the East Coast now.
Yes. So I was 18 years old. I moved from New Orleans to Atlanta because I just wanted to adventure. I didn't want to have a mentality or feel stuck. If I feel stuck in any capacity, I probably need to make a change of some kind because that's just me. Probably has a couple of things to do with some things that took place in my life too, very early. But I decided to leave, and also my parents, they don't live in a big suburban kind of area in New Orleans. My parents lived in a very low income, poor area, and their house is still there. And so, I grew up in that kind of environment. Love my old hood, love my city, love where I'm from, love my people. But I just didn't want to feel stuck in that environment. I also saw a lot of awful things growing up too.
Okay.
So I didn't want to stay there. I made a decision that as soon as I could, then I would leave, and doors started opening up and I left. So I moved to Atlanta. I lived out there for, I want to say probably maybe about 2.5 years, experienced life in a way that I never thought I would. I wasn't doing any writing, anything creative at this point. I was just working and just exploring and just living. I had one really cool thing happen when I was out there. I was interviewed for a position with the CIA, and that was a pretty fun thing. I had dreams and aspirations of getting back into communications. I was looking into school at the Air Force Academy because I wanted to get into communications with them. I did have dreams at some point of working for the U.S. government. I wanted to be like, I don't know, a spy or something really cool like that. I was kind of fascinated with that.
You wanted more stories for the books.
I'm telling you that. I had this I'm going to try to make this story really short for you. But they found me. I was working at like a call center in Atlanta. Imagine this. I'm working at a call center in Atlanta. I'm on, my headset's on. I'm sitting at my computer desk. I'm working. And then suddenly an email pops up on my computer screen from the Central Intelligence Agency saying, we would like to speak with you about a job opportunity with us, a career opportunity with us. And when I saw the email pop up, I was like, there's no way. This must be spam. This was my work email, by the way. It wasn't my personal email. I hadn't been at this job for very long. So I was like, who would even have access to get this email address? Because I couldn't give it out. I mean, it was CIA we're talking about. They can find you wherever you are, right? I mean, obviously, right? So yes, a recruiter found me, emailed me. I didn't believe her. And so she's like, yes, this is really us. Would you like for me to give you a call? And I was like, yes, sure, you can. Okay. So I stepped outside in the courtyard. She called me and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, oh, wow. So then I'm looking around like,
am I alone?
Who's watching me? It's like, this is freaky. This is so weird, but okay. And then I'm like, this would probably be undercover, so I can't really talk about this right here where I'm at my work. I mean, I was really thinking out. It felt like I was in a movie. It was so hilarious. So I go back to my desk. We schedule my first interview, which really was a test. I had to take a computer test first. Anyway, it's a very long, very cool story. I did not make it, unfortunately, because I had a student loan on my credit. Which was,
they don't like debt because that's like a whole security thing and all that.
Absolutely, yeah. I was heartbroken about that, but I went through the entire. I made it. They gave me a conditional offer and everything, and they were begging. They actually got back in touch with me when I moved back to New Orleans. I kind of was depressed a little bit after that. I moved back to New Orleans. They got back in touch with me and wanted me to come back and meet with them again in Baton Rouge. But I said no. I turned them down this time. and I was in my feelings, and that was probably crazy, but I just was very heartbroken about that. And I thought, but this is probably just not for me. So I said no, like a crazy person, and then moved on with my life. So I was just working back in New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina happened, and that's what brought me to Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So so you were there during the whole storm, or did you already leave before the storm hit?
Yeah, so I evacuated. So I was working at a hospital, and I heard about the storm. I was so busy working for Dr. White. He's a lead cardiologist there, that I had no idea. I had no idea about anything that was going on because I was always working. But happened to just look up at my computer one day and saw the nurses talking about it, and they were like, there's a pretty big hurricane that's headed our way. And I was like, you're kidding. Where? And I'm telling you, it shocked me. And as it got closer, this was like several days before the storm hit, I just remember telling my parents, listen, because I moved back to New Orleans, and I lived with them for a little while. And I said, look, I don't want to stay here. I'm leaving. I don't have a good feeling about this storm. I am going to go to Texas. I'm not staying here. My dad kind of put up a fight. He didn't want me to drive my car. I had really bad brakes at the time. And I was like, Dad, listen, I don't care about my brakes. I'll figure it out. I'm a tough girl. I got it. I'm okay. I'm leaving. Right. Long story short, I left with my best friend and her husband. They just got married. We all came to Texas, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, glad you made that decision, because I know that storm was.
Oh, it was devastating. My parents lost everything. They lost their house. Like everything was destroyed. All I had was the clothes in my trunk.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Came back, and their house was completely destroyed. So they had to rebuild, and they did. And they're back home. They've been back home ever since. It's been a long time now, but the city still is recovering, and that's just crazy to say.
I mean, it's definitely hard because insurance plays a factor, and then just construction. Sometimes the roads or the land itself is just damaged and hard to repair or work on. And you want to fix your mic? I feel like it's been dropping on you.
I know. Oh no. I'm like, I sure hope everyone can hear me. Sorry, guys. Okay. 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 Is this better?
Okay. So
thank you for that.
So you leave Louisiana, you come out here to Waco.
Yeah.
What's that process like when you have to leave home because of an emergency? What'd you have to do? Did you rent a hotel? Did you have friends out here?
Yeah.
Go through a church? Like, what was
Sure. Now, I actually didn't come straight to Waco. So I came to Texas. I first came to Dallas, Fort Worth.
Okay.
Yeah. So my ex-husband and I were engaged at the time. And so we were planning to have this really big wedding in City Park of New Orleans, and then the storm hit. And so I ended up, coming up to Dallas to be with him and his family. And so, so thankfully I had a place to go. I didn't have to do anything like that, like try to get a hotel or try to go to like a Superdome. I heard horror stories of folks that went to like that were bused to different cities and didn't know anyone and didn't have anywhere to go. I'm really grateful that wasn't my story. At least I knew my ex-husband, and I knew his family, and I could sleep comfortably, in somebody's home. So that softened the blow a little bit. My parents and my sister and her husband were in Baton Rouge. So they were just an hour outside of the city, and they were there without power for like a week. And so, so they were there without power for a week. But my brother at the time, he was working for the New Orleans Sheriff's Department, and he had a house in La Place, Texas, which is, it's before you get to Baton Rouge. So it's probably about 35 minutes outside of the city of New Orleans, across the lake. And so they ended up living with him for about a year, him and his family for about a year, until their house was ready for them to move back in. So even they were okay, a little bit uncomfortable, for a season, but they at least still had a place to go. Thankfully, I didn't lose any family members in the storm. I don't have one of the stories where any of my family members were trapped in a Superdome waiting. I mean, if you ever looked at any of the documentaries and seen some of the things, it's horrific to think about. And some of these people still struggle, I'm sure, now with probably PTSD and probably,
living conditions like that. It's tough on anybody.
I can't, seeing bodies, just kind of laying around and people just not making it, dying in the Superdome and around it. And, because it was so hot, the AC went out, there's no power. And it was just a lot, just awful, awful conditions. So I'm extremely thankful that wasn't, my story. Yeah, and still my heart still certainly goes out to those who are affected badly like that.
Oh, absolutely. And so
Yeah.
move out here to Texas. You're up there in Dallas.
Yeah.
What year is that? We're looking at?
That had to be in 2005.
That's right.
I
Okay,
think that's
yeah.
when Katrina hit. It was in 2005. So got married later that year. Went through some challenges with having kids. Had a couple of child losses. I actually wrote a book called Once Upon a Child. So this is what really got me into publishing. Just following along with that story. Before I had my oldest, I suffered with a couple of miscarriages. I've had 5 in total over the years, and a couple of second trimester losses too, which was really difficult. But in the beginning, they were very early losses, but also very devastating, really hard for me physically. I was working in higher education at the time at the University of Phoenix. I was working in enrollment. So I was helping, new people, having great conversations with people about their career path and what they want to do with their lives and stuff, and helping them get enrolled in school. But then I found out I was pregnant with my oldest son, and I got very sick again. So my doctor put me on bed rest. So I was at home. While I was on bed rest at home, I was like, what do I do? Because I'm just here, and of course I'm growing a baby, but I felt like I should be doing something else too,
Occupy your time, keep yourself busy.
Because it was just me all day trying to figure it out. And so I got back to writing, and I thought, I think I'm actually going to go ahead and look more into writing and what it takes to become an author. So I ended up Googling, or Google or whatever the search engine was.
Ask
I think it could have
Jeeves
been
whatever.
Ask Jeeves, exactly, right? Ask Jeeves, something like that. Ended up looking up my writing mentor. How do I find a writing mentor in my area? And I stumbled upon a lady who I'm still good friends with today. Her name is Trisha Goyer, and she's an author of a lot of books. I think she's probably tipped over 100 books by now. And she's been working with publishers with contracts over the years, and just a phenomenal person. She became my writing mentor. I subscribed to her blog, and I just was her little shadow, was following her around everywhere. She introduced me to a lot of great people in the writing industry, helped me get some really great opportunities to do some writing, to get published. Be a part of some really good blogging teams as well for a website called Mom Life Today. And though I was getting all of that practice in, it was preparing me for my own books that I started and that I worked on. So I launched my very first book, and then I wrote the book about myself having the multiple miscarriages called Once Upon a Child. So then I was working on my own books, and people were asking me, how are you doing that? Like, and I learned how to do it from being mentored by Trisha and everybody else that I had met in this industry. And I just took what I learned and decided to help show other people how to do it. So it turned into me creating a small little firm. I think I called it like Writing to Inspire or something really cool. I couldn't really think of a name. So I just picked something like that and said, I'll just have a little place where I can help people put their books together. And I did that, and people kept coming, and they kept referring me to other people. I started teaching it at local libraries and stuff like that. So, I might as well just take this to the public and see if anybody out there is interested and wanted to know how to do this too. I can share what I know. Classes started filling up at the libraries, and people started showing up. And so then I thought, well, I might as well take this a step further and see what else I could do. So people were like, well, now that I have my book done, what's next? How do I get it published? Mm-hmm. So again, taking information that people shared with me, sharing it with them, teaching them how to do it, and then eventually taking on their projects to help them publish it. And that was my literal start, to where I am right now. Yeah, literally just learning something and sharing it with other people.
So where are you right now? Because we hear this process, and so you've done, you started. This is kind of how it turned into the company you have now.
Yeah.
And so you took all the experiences of understanding the challenges of how to write a book. Mm-hmm. It's like, first of all, creating an idea for a book.
Yeah.
But once you get past that point, then you turn it into a book.
Yeah.
So you learned how to do that. Now you learned how to get it published. Mm-hmm. And so you just took all these pieces, which is kind of like the full circle that you need for anyone that wants to write a book.
Right.
And so you've now created your company with it.
Yes.
With all of that. And so did it start out there in Dallas, or did you start that down here in Waco?
It started in Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah. So it started in the Dallas area. Back then, So a lot was happening, different parts of my life, of course, too. Went through other miscarriages, had kids, went through the challenges of child loss with little kids, which was also a very hard, very difficult thing to do. Went through a really hard marriage, ended up getting divorced. Again, just another personal, really difficult part of my story. And then my brother passed away. So went through the death of my brother, went through some transitions, and after the divorce. So during that time period, I was actually still running a company. In fact, I turned it into a small press. I call it a small press publishing company. So the titles that I was getting in were being published under my company's name.
Oh, wow.
Then, yeah. So I was helping them to have signings, just working with them to, not just have a good book launch, but to really be there for them, at the very beginning, like a kind of like a coach, a mentor, to make sure just to be available to them for accountability too, because they really wanted to do this, but it's a lot of hesitation. It's a lot of fear. It's a lot of, I'm not sure. I'm kind of worried, and I'm like, nope, here's what we can do. Here's how I can help you. And let's do this thing together. You're not by yourself. So it was a lot of that, a lot of hand holding and just working with my team to not only produce the books, but to make sure that they had a good jump start. So that was going well. It was getting very overwhelming. My team was not as big as it is now. It just was me and just maybe a few people, and it was very hard. So I went through this stage where I was going through all of this really hard personal stuff, and I was holding on as much as possible. But when I learned I had to move, and my family was just going through this big transition after divorce, I had to ultimately put a pause on that.
Okay.
And it broke my heart. It broke my heart. I hear in business at times, it's just sometimes it's a part of the process of things you might have to step back, reevaluate. I actually did not think I would ever come back to it. I thought, nope, I'm just going to publish my own books. I'm just going to do my own thing. I don't think, I don't think I have the capacity again to go through this much after so many other personal things. I also knew that I needed to reset personally, so moving transition then happened. I moved here. My older kids ended up moving. I had 4 older kids, so I was a single mom of 4. They ended up coming to Waco with me, ended up kind of reestablishing myself back out here. And then really think right around the year of COVID is when I had interest again in books. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to come back. I think I'm ready to take the next steps to come back again and to open my doors again to help other authors, that are out there. And ever since I did that, it has just blossomed into something very special. I took a lot of what I learned the first 10 years or so that I did it up there in Dallas, Fort Worth, and I brought that with me along with a lot of new things with some fresh eyes, a complete reset of mind and heart, and really excited about where we're headed now.
And so when you restarted it, was that 2019, like before COVID, or are we doing it during COVID, during 2020?
Softly around 2019. So with me putting myself back out there again, very quietly, very, very slowly, starting to get some interest. People like, hey, Kennisha, are you still doing books? Somebody told me that you helped them with books, all them years ago, or some returning authors that they kept up with me over the years. I had some, and just bless their hearts. They were so sweet because they were really patient with me, but they were also very compassionate and understanding of me too. So many of my clients they became friends who really cared about me, which was really sweet. They were like, listen, I know that you need this season right now to rest, to reset, but I'm not going to nobody else for my book but you. So I hope you're ready when I'm ready with my next book, which was so sweet, again, for them to still consider me after everything that I had experienced there. So I had people waiting, for me to say my door is open once again, for this. Again, very kind of them, very sweet of them. But and they came back and they brought people. And then the opportunity at MCC opened up, and that also opened up lots of doors and bringing in more people locally now who are learning about what I get to do, and now they're interested. So
what are the services that you provide through your company? So if someone just has, let's just start from the furthest point to start, just an idea of writing a book, are you able to help them talk through the whole way of the story that they want to tell? Is that something what's the process look like? If someone just simply has an idea for a book, but doesn't know how to turn it into a book. Can you help with that?
Absolutely. So my services are really divided into to two different categories. I have the book writing options, and then I have the book production and publishing assistance options. So those who want to do book writing with me, and they say, "Hey, Kennisha, I have this idea, and I don't really know where to start. It's just in my mind. I don't have anything on paper. I haven't written anything. I haven't done anything. It's just a thought. I don't even know if this thought makes sense. Can we meet and you could just tell me if this makes sense?" This is really some of the things people will say, and I'm like, "Yeah, of course. Let's sit down. Let's just have a conversation first, right?" Usually, people will go right to our site and they'll make a free 30-minute appointment, and I just want to hear their thoughts, their ideas. If they bring anything with me, we just talk about it. If after I hear their idea and I'm like, yes, this is actually worth pursuing, and I'm happy to help you flesh this out, then what they'll do is what I recommend usually is for them to sign up for my literary coaching program. And so that's a 1-hour consultation, but it also includes work that I actually get to do with them in their book. So I'm helping them to create that writing plan. I'm helping them to unpack those ideas, right? Each session that we have, we can do it on Zoom if they're not locally here. If they're here, they come right in my office. We sit down and we meet together and we just flesh out those ideas, and I help them to write it. Some feel a little bit self-conscious about their writing. Not some. A lot of people feel pretty self-conscious about their writing. They're worried that they think that I'm just like this editor that's about to tell them, you just should not be writing any books, and I would never discourage anyone, not even the person who just does not think that they can write anything, because we all still have a good story to tell, and we all have important words. Our words matter. And so even if you struggle with getting some things down, it's okay. There's strategies that we can, implement. There are other things that you can use, tools that you can use, to help you speak your words, even if you don't know how to write them down, if you worry about that. So always encourage them. Do not feel, don't get worried and hesitate to move forward with doing your book if you're struggling with writing, because I can help you with that. And the more you write, the better you get anyway, So yes, I help them unpack those ideas and eventually turn the writing plan into written chapters into their finished book. That's with the coaching program. And then if they say, hey, I have everything I need, but now I want to actually make my book, what do I do then? So then we go to book production, and my design team hops in there with me, and we go through samples of designs and sketches for illustrators. If you want to do a children's book, I'll walk through that entire process with them until they have their book in their hands.
And so let's say all this together, and let's say it's like a simple book, maybe I don't know if this is simple or not, like 100 pages. And maybe the message isn't like too deep at all or anything like that, but it's able to come across and have a good flow. What's like the timeline look like if someone's dedicated and really kind of goes after it day after day?
Yeah.
Like what's maybe like a turnaround window look like through this whole process?
Oh goodness. So I have seen books. I've seen a good 1 month turnaround.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have a book that's less than 100 pages, even if it's not written. And I mean from the time, just the idea point, the ideas that you have all the way into having the finished book, I think is very possible that you can do that in a month. But it requires a lot of commitment, dedication. You have to write every day. You have to put something on paper every day. You have to make that a part of your life. And if you're willing to do that, then yeah, you can most certainly have a book finished. I participated in a program. Every November is National Novel Writing Month. Just in a writing community is a big thing. If you participate in this competition, it's to see if you can write a full-length novel in 30 days. Full-length novel as in, I think about 40 to 60,000 words. So you have to pick. That's a lot. And if you choose to do that, you literally are maybe doing about 3,000 or so words a day if you can. But that's a lot. So that's not just, a page or two. No, that's a lot of pages to actually commit to sit down and write and to squeeze it into your day. I participated in this thing one time.
I was going to say, have you done it before?
Yeah. I did. And got my certificate. I was determined. I was so determined. I was like, I have to do this. And you have to pick something brand new. Cannot be an extension of anything else you've written. Can't be something new. I literally just took an idea I had for a sci-fi novel, a fantasy novel that I wanted to write. And I said, you know what? I have this idea. I think I'm going to use that. And I think we're just going to build this story. Just go with it. Just, and I did it. And I was so proud of myself. That's probably one of my most proudest moments that I have not really shared a lot publicly because I have the certificate, but that's all. But man, I was so proud. I was like, I did it. I wrote all these words, but I was committed to that thing. When I tell you, and with little kids. So I had my kids would be around me with their toys and stuff. And, I'm doing my normal thing that I do, when I'm at home and I'm around the house and stuff like that. But man, I was so proud to finally have gotten through that whole novel. And I was like, if I could do that, anybody can. But it definitely takes a lot of persistence. And you have to be ready and fired up and not let anything get in your way to stop you from finishing your goal. Yeah.
What was the storyline of the book?
Oh man.
Just
so
like
this is
without giving too much away, but it was like kind of like
I don't want to give a whole lot away because I am going to release that book right now. It's with an editor. And so many years later, it's finally, let me tell you something. I get people that tell me stuff like this, like, hey, I have a book. I had this is something I wrote that's been on my file in my computer for all these years. And I don't know if I should do anything, I feel like you should do something with it. I did. I wrote that thing probably 10 years ago, that was on my computer that I found that I thought, I'm so glad it didn't somehow get lost in a cyber world and I would have never seen it again. But I have to do something with this story because it meant a lot to me then. And I am going to release it when it's back from the editor. But it's about a teenage girl who she's just kind of stumbling along in the woods, just kind of walking to a school that she attends, and she happens to come across this light. She investigates it, she checks it out, and ends up taking her into this world. Don't think Narnia because it's not like it's not like the Chronicles of Narnia, I promise. But there ends up being another world that she learns about, and this story is basically about the world of just kind of think the heavens, right? You've got angels and I believe in the Bible, and I believe that we have there are angels that watch over us. Again, I believe the Bible, and I believe that's what it says. And so in this story, she has her like guardian angels, but they come in the form of other kids, which is so cool. And she's been given this really cool assignment on Earth from the angels, and they're there to help guide her through to completing that task that she was given, this big divine assignment. So super cool. But it also is a lot about dreams, and visions and stuff. And she had dreams of some of this stuff being like happening. And then they're just there to help her, with the dream she has, which is ultimately the task that she's supposed to be doing. So it's super cool.
it sounds really good. I like it.
Yeah. I was really excited. When I got the idea, I thought, I have not seen anything like this. Again, it's not Narnia. So don't think about Chronicles of Narnia.
Right. But it's kind of like a self journey of, like understanding like the purpose of why we're here and like what we're going to do next in our journey.
Lots of themes like that inside.
Nice.
Lots of themes like that. Yes.
That's awesome.
Exciting.
Awesome. So, where are we at now? You moved down to Waco, remarried?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And then you said you had 4 kids?
I have 7 now.
7 kids.
Yes.
That's a lot of kids.
That is a lot.
I have 1 kid. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
Just the one
big
and done.
Family.
He was a big pain in the butt. And I was like, nah. So 7 kids.
7. Yes. So I was.
I don't know how you had the patience.
Whew.
And you're the nicest person I know too.
Oh, you're sweet.
You're always walking around with a smile. You're always cheerful.
Oh, man.
If I had
gosh.
7 kids, I would just be like, just
I
like
have my days.
blood pressure up to like.
It's probably pretty high. It's probably, yeah. Well, it is definitely very busy. So came to Waco. My husband, now we were dating when I lived in Fort Worth before I made the transition to come back here. So that's actually what took me here. He was from here. And so I would come back and forth to visit. When I was going through the transition where I needed to move, I just thought I would just move down here and then just, check out Waco. He took me around to kind of check things out in Waco. And I thought, this is a nice city. It's not as fast paced. It's not as congested and crowded and crazy as the bigger cities that I lived in. So I thought I might like that a lot better.
From New Orleans to Atlanta to Dallas. Yeah, those are all big time names, big cities.
And so yes.
You take a relaxing step back into Waco.
Yes. And I felt peaceful every time I came here to visit. It's just, I was going through a lot at the time, but when I would come down here, I'm like, oh man, I feel like I could breathe here. You know, like it just seems like an easy going, like a good pace here. Doesn't seem like it's overwhelming or anything. And again, I was going through some really hard things, but I liked how I felt here. So I thought I could probably come here and kind of establish myself here. And at the time, my older kids were living with their dad, finishing off a school year there. So I came first. And then my kids came a little bit after that school year was up. Then they came down here. And so, so then we just kind of started our lives over, got married fast. And then the next thing you know, I've got 3 more kids. So
wow.
So added to my youngest at the time. Well, let's see, Zoe, who was about to be 6, and Caleb just made 11. So that's the 4-year maybe time span between the two of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So almost 17-year-old is the oldest, and then youngest just made 3.
Golly.
Yeah. So I've got some different ages and stages in between. Some teenagers and some toddlers, and
Any of them taking after you, wanting to write books and all that, or everyone else just doing their own thing? Or?
I think they're doing their own thing right now. I think they're trying to discover what they like, what they love. Certainly very hard to tell with the smallest ones. Of course, they're into arts and crafts, so we always have fun just drawing and creating. And I love to see, like I just was outside the other day with one of the youngest ones with the what do you call it, little chalk you draw on the ground.
Right.
It's the play chalk. So we were outside in our backyard on a patio floor just watching them draw. And I just love to admire their creative minds to see where they're going. And right now, Zoe, she definitely has a very big, if there's a personality that I think matches very closely with mine, that I wouldn't be surprised, maybe tapped into a little bit of creativity, would be her.
Okay.
She is a lot like me in personality and in creativity. I love to see she always wants to create something, make something, write, draw something, show me something, she's not shy. So you ever get her on an interview, this girl will talk your head off. Okay. And that was me. I was the motor mouth. I was the one who loved to talk. I was never afraid of the camera. I was always just ready to go.
Right.
And that's her personality. So funny too, because I had her the day before my birthday.
Oh.
So she's born August 13th and I'm the 14th.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. She's going to be, she's one of the characters in this new book. So I have a new children's book going to be coming out later this year. I mentioned, and it's about her and her sister, Natty. And it's called Natty and Zoe, the Best Adventure Award. And so when I do the publicity, I'm really hoping to get some interviews with the two of them, with the book, because it's going to be the most adorable, cutest little thing. They are so funny and they always have something fun to say. So yeah, I can't wait to go on a press tour with them.
That'd be fun.
Y'all get to meet them.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And so this is something that I might have read last year, if memory serves me right, but literacy in America is actually a lot lower.
Yeah.
Or it's a pretty low, I don't know if you call it score or capabilities.
Yeah.
Especially for someone that wants to tell a story. And then oftentimes these stories have a meaning or a message that, can help people,
right,
or help make a connection and things like that. So how is that? That's a challenge for writers that want to deliver a message, especially if it's a powerful message, if it's a experience that they have gone through. And luckily now we have the great capabilities of like the audiobooks. And that's probably a really big help for a lot of these authors that write these books.
Yeah.
And it makes it available to a lot of people. Still, there's a little bit of a process to go with it that maybe not everyone can experience. But being able to, like, I like to just learn. Like, stories are great, but to me, I just like to learn how things are made and built and that understanding.
Yes.
But the kicker is I don't like to read. If I can just hear it and I can just, because my mind puts it all together when I get to hear it. Yeah. So do you feel like that's one of those challenges, or is there anything out there to help, especially for kids going to school today, becoming literate, being able to read, be able to understand these messages that are being put out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially because a lot of stories can be relatable to kids nowadays going through challenges and struggles.
Yeah.
How is that like kind of like in the community of writers, like, is there anything being done to help with the literacy or to be able to address this kind of a point that we're at in America?
Yes, yes. I am so glad that you asked this question because that is another big part of why I do what I do too. It's funny, we talk a lot about literacy and the scoring and these standardized tests and things like that, and the challenges that they're running with test scores look like with kids and they're struggling with reading. But the truth is, these kids are growing up. This has been an issue for a very long time. The kids have grown up and are adults now, which many of them, and even if they have a really good story to tell, struggle with saying it, with telling it, with sitting down and writing down their thoughts, or with, communicating, trying to figure out how to communicate what it is that they're trying to say, how to write to make sense. I can't tell you how many times I hear from people that want to write books tell me, I'm not a good writer. I'm not a good speller. I don't really read. And that's probably one of the most common things that I hear from people when I tell them I help people write books is that, I don't really read, and it's like, you should. It's good to do, right? I mean, you don't have to get a 500-page novel and read it. As long as you're reading something, you're continuing to grow, continuing to help yourself communicate better. We learn to communicate better by reading, certainly by listening. Audiobooks, is really good and everything too. But I always encourage people to read something and to write something if you can every day, even if it's just in your journal, even if it's just your own thoughts. And sometimes, as funny as this sounds with what I do, sometimes the only like real writing that I get to do, if it's not on our site or in a piece that we're working on or just within anybody else's book, it's in my own journal. It's me sitting down to communicate how I think and feel, and it's just to freely write, And even though there's intent and purpose behind that, just for me mentally, it's also exercise. It's also a healthy practice. When I taught at MCC, this might have been last summer, I participated in the kids college program that they had, and I was talking to the young kids there about reading. Just about the love of reading. And at the end of that course, I think it was a week long. At the end of the course, we ended up doing an exercise where eventually they ended up doing their own book, writing their own storybook and illustrating it. So it was fun to kind of work on that project with them. But one of the things we talked about was reading comprehension. And what do you really think about reading? And tell me honestly, what do you really feel about reading? And what are some of the obstacles that you face with reading and being able to tell me what you read? And so I asked them that question. In fact, I had them go up to the board and write down, like I wrote number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down. And I had kids to come up to fill in those lines. Like, why is it that you're struggling with reading? Tell me what's one of the challenges that you face, right? And kids were like, one kid was like, it's boring, what they're trying to have me read. It's boring. It's not really keeping my attention. Right. Yeah. All right. So that's fair. Go ahead and write that up there. And I'm like, you won't be judged. You won't be penalized. No worries. No, nothing. I just want to hear the truth from you. Right. What do you really feel? Other kids would say stuff like, reading makes me tired. They might kind of, equate reading with bedtime.
Okay.
Right. Read a bedtime story. And that's just going to make me tired, which of course there's nothing wrong with reading a good story, before bed. But you probably also should be reading something during another time period too during the day, one that won't make you sleepy, But anyway, yeah. So I had them to fill in all 5 of those. And then the next questions I asked after that was, now what can we do to fix that? If this is the challenge you're having with reading, let's take a minute to think about what we can do about that.
Yeah, what would be the solution to this? Yeah.
And that was the point. Not just for them I wanted them to be able to identify the obstacle, but I also wanted them to find the solution. And I wanted them to tell me. I didn't want to tell them because I could, come up with, right? But what do you think? How can we fix that? And these were like elementary, like maybe 6th graders to like, I think really they had to be about 6th and 7th graders or something like that. So very young. but able to tell me what they think could help them. Well, if I did this and this and this, then, if I read this kind of book, then I'd be more interested,
So like a self-diagnose kind of thing.
Just to see what they would come up with. And I think just really in parenting, I feel like that's kind of missing, helping our kids to think critically for themselves.
Yeah.
Find a solution. What would you do? How would you fix that? That's what I do to my kids. Probably.
Same. I love to do it because like he'll be so frustrated. Like, how do you think you should fix this? Then you got to take that second and start doing the problem solving.
Yes.
And like that's what I love. I love problem solving. That's what I learned in the Army. And so I was just like, it's so satisfying. Like, okay, we have an issue. Mm-hmm. How are we going to fix it? And so, usually, because also like where I was at is you're always kind of like by yourself.
Yeah.
You didn't really have a big team because everyone's trying to do something.
Right.
And you can't be like, oh, I can't figure it out. Like, that would never happen in the Army.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you got to learn how to be self-sufficient. And so when my little guy's going through a problem, I'm like, let's experiment. How are you going to fix this? And so he'll come up with something. I'll usually let him run 2, maybe 3 times. If you still can't figure it out, then that's when I'll come in like, hey, why don't you try this way?
It is so important for their development. I really think, for me, just, looking back, when I was a little girl, I was always very ambitious. And I honestly don't know where it came from. Both of my parents were very hardworking in their own respect and what they did. But I just was nothing would get in my way kind of person. I was always that way. And I remember my mom tells a story. I was a little girl that had to be about 3 years old. And, my brother was riding a bicycle on 2 wheels and I wanted to ride my bike on 2 wheels. I had this cute little bitty bike. And, we would go to Ottoman Park in New Orleans and my brother would ride his bike and he seemed so free. And I was like, I want to ride my bike too without training wheels. And my dad and mom were like, well, Kennisha, you're 3. That's too... You're going to fall. You're going to hurt yourself, Right. And we didn't have helmets, back then. So if I hit the floor, I was, if I hit the ground, I was done. I've got scars to prove it, But Dad took my training wheels off. I fell, a couple of times. But I guaranteed you before we left that park, I was riding my bike with 2 wheels on it. And my mom tells that story just, she sees that. She still sees that in me when we have conversations. That there you go, Kennisha. You're that same little girl that was determined to not fall off of her bicycle when you were 3, 4 years old and you're still going.
Well, you weren't going to let falling off the bicycle stop you from learning how to ride the bicycle to the point where you wanted, which was, on 2 wheels. Exactly.
That's the point. Figure it out, and I had to think, how do I not fall? Yeah. I had to, what do I need to do to do this, to reach that goal? Same mindset I have today, same one that I had then. And what I try to teach and instill on my children, the same. Find a solution. I'm not going to always give you the answer.
Yeah.
You're going to have to figure it out. So I was really impressed with the kids in that class, with them coming up with certain solutions. And then I just encouraged them, of course, at the very end of that class, put these solutions in action. Read something, something you like every day. Go to a different place or a different part of your house that makes you happy, that excites you. If it's sitting outside in the back patio to read over there. You don't have to confine yourself to your room. And these some of the same things that I teach, in writing, with authors who struggle with their writing environment. I just talked about that in one of the videos on my TikTok page. Sometimes it's a good idea to just go in a different place, to try something different, write about something different, every day. You don't have to write about the same thing, all the time,
create a new energy. Yeah.
Switch it up. Write about what you love, and I think the more that we do that as adults is going to help us, our own literacy, help us to be able to communicate a lot better, even professionally, help us to, before you know it, you'll be looking at the emails you send off, to other people on your team and to be like, my emails sound pretty good today.
Right.
It's working, right? I am able to communicate better. I'm able to speak better, and those things help. Those help every day, and just how we function, how we communicate. We feel more confident too, if we do, because we're reading, we're smart.
It's all a learning challenge for us. Even as just humans, I don't know how, we can go all back to Egypt and the symbols that they had for their messaging, but trying to either just communicate.
Yeah.
And us both know the same language.
Yeah.
Already what an amazing accomplishment.
Yes.
And then B, being able to create some kind of message on paper for then you to understand, for me to understand, and then we can grasp the message from that. Again, another great accomplishment for humans,
It's very true.
And so it's something that we all are challenged with. And that's why, ideally through school, you should be able to, they'll try to teach you reading and writing in that.
Exactly.
But it's maybe the purpose is lost sometimes of why am I doing this? So it's maybe someday you're going to run your own business and you're going to have to write off these emails or contracts or proposals or just, hey, you want to go have lunch somewhere?
Exactly.
And so it's still a challenge of creating a message that then someone can understand.
Right.
Especially, think about if you couldn't speak and you're trying to deliver a message, but you need something important.
Yes.
Right? It's so much of an experience.
It is. And I also wish that our teachers who are teaching our kids in schools just maintain a passion for the subject that they're teaching. Because that passion, they will feel that, they will see that and feel that, be energized by that, be moved by that, encouraged and inspired by that passion to be good at whatever that subject is. I had really amazing English teachers in high school. I did.
I'm sure I did, but I was really bad at school. So they probably did their best job, but it wasn't working on me.
There's a way to reach everyone, but I just was, I paid very close attention to her. A lot of my teachers, were all really great through high school, but my English teacher was also my French teacher, which was really funny.
Okay.
So I had her for two languages, right? The English language, right? And learning how to communicate and write well, but also in learning French. And, she was just really a dynamic teacher. She had a lot of criticism from a lot of students because she was also tough as nails,
nice.
But I could receive well by that, and I learned that about me over the years. Someone who's really tough in their approach, are firm in their approach, but also had that spark of compassion and kindness in it where, they're not being mean, they're just being firm and really want you to get it. I receive well from that. And I learn well that way. So I did. She was the most perfect teacher for me. I did really good in my English classes, and I definitely thank her for how she just helped me maintain. I think she also recognized a gift of writing and wanted to help nurture that too. So I think this another important thing as teachers, to recognize the students, the giftings that they have and encourage them and help to nurture those things in the school environment, to help them be better. But also, just like you're saying, illustrate why it's important that you know these things now and how this is going to help you in the future, to be an even better communicator. I got my bachelor degree in communications and I wish we could all take some of the classes that I took there. Everybody could just get it, what effective communication really looks like, and how important that is. Some of the things people say on social media sometimes blow my mind away. And it's we should really teach some communication 101 up here.
I mean, a little refresher course, just think
what
about
to
it.
Say, what not to say, what you probably shouldn't say, or what's a better way to say that,
But who's got time for that? Yeah. Not a
crazy
thing. But I appreciate you coming on. This is a great conversation that we had. And before any other announcements or anything before I...
Let's see. There's a conference I'm very excited. I get to speak at here. The Achieve conference is in Waco coming up in October. I'm very excited. I'm one of the speakers this year.
Awesome.
So looking forward to that. I'll be talking about resiliency and how to keep on moving forward in the face of adversity and to how to thrive with that. So very excited to talk about that. Have some pretty cool stories I get to share, have a little bit of experience in that area. So excited about that and just a new children's book and my course at MCC. So I'm grateful for some good things.
And then what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you if they have an interest in writing their books? What's the website, phone number? Instagram, all that good stuff? What's the best way?
Absolutely,
Or what's all of them? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So really the best way is going to be our website. So it's www.createandblossomstudios.com. That's studios with an S at the end. They can go right on there and have a tab. There's a button right on our front page where you can schedule a free consultation with us. With free consults, you don't have to have any material. People usually ask me that question. Do I need to have some parts written? I don't have anything. I don't know if my idea sounds like a good idea. I don't know if I should do this. If you have questions about it, but if it's something that you think you'd like to talk about, then we can always talk about it, you know, and then we could go from there. So yes, our website is the best. From there, all of our social media handles are right up on that page too. So you can follow us and connect with us. And if you're interested in any of my own books or my own life as an author, my website is KennishaGriffin.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I got some little gifts for you.
Yay.
So first of all, so with your company, you help a lot of people, not just locally, but would we say globally?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
So from my company to yours, here's a golden link for you.
Oh, thank you.
So that's for you to keep. And it's just a little token from this little podcast and all the good stuff.
Oh my gosh. Thank you very
And then
much.
also we do a trade at the end of the podcast. Do you have anything to trade?
I do. I'm going to reach over here. And I have this book that I would like to trade.
And what do we
with
got
you.
here?
This is called Put Your Pen to Paper. This is a book for people who are interested in wanting to write their books, but they wrestle with some challenges like overcoming writer's block, trying to find the right time to do it, not feeling sure about their messages and want to know how to properly communicate that. Just any kind of struggle. A lot of things really stop people from becoming authors. And most of those things are just what we feel and what we think about ourselves. Like it's really like some mental challenges we just kind of run into, like some mental roadblocks almost. So I wanted to address those things in this book because those are common things that I hear people say all the time. I don't think I'm a good writer. I don't think I have the time. I don't really know how to do this thing. What are people going to say about me, in my book, so all sorts of challenges like that. And I wanted to address those in this book, but I also share a little bit more about my writing story in there too.
Wow.
Some of the people that inspired me and how I went through the same things that you're likely experiencing too, and have now become an author of 11 books. So yeah,
Well, that's amazing.
that's my trade for you.
And then I have, find both of them. So we have one of our stickers from the local artist down there in Cultivate 7112.
Yay.
And then we also have from Revisions Photos, it's a $50 gift card. So if you have any old photos,
Oh, wow.
not maybe for you, but for family members as well, she'll help you with restoring those photos. So
Oh, wow.
which one are you looking into?
Oh my gosh, the photos would be awesome too. Yes.
Do you have any old photos that you're trying
Thank you.
any ones that you're trying to work on or restore?
Yes, probably some of my
Yeah.
kids when they were little. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. But
This
yeah.
is
And then she's
wonderful.
right,
Thank
actually
you.
down the street.
Yeah.
I can't remember where the
Wow.
One Day Bar is at, right there in the corner.
Yeah.
She's opening up right now. It's not 100% last I checked, but you can still walk in anytime. Maybe we'll go swing by today if you have time. But
This is amazing. Yes, I'd love to check it out.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank
but
you.
she's great. She was on last, and so that'll be coming out here
Oh.
shortly. But
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
awesome. But thank you so much for being on the
Yay.
podcast. I had a great time
cool.
listening and getting
yeah.
to hear your story and getting to talk, especially about movies. We'll have to do
I know.
more
We gotta do
conversation
more
on
about
movies.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for being on. Thank you everyone for listening, and
Thank you.
go ahead and follow on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook,
Yes.
YouTube. No YouTube?
Yes.
YouTube,
Yes.
everything, and buy our books or anything like that. Or follow
Yes.
along, and looking forward to hearing you speak later
Yes.
on.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, take care.
You too. Thanks.
Find out more by visiting our website, business-locksmith.com, and sign up to be a guest. Or email unlock@business-locksmith.com with subject podcast. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Business Locksmith LLC. You can listen in anywhere you get your podcast from, so get ready to turn the key and unlock your true potential with the Business Locksmith podcast.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.